It started like any other long school day, the kind that leaves your brain foggy and your backpack heavier than your soul. By the end of our study group, everyone was yawning, passing around half-finished notes, and pretending we understood calculus. Alex nudged me with his elbow. "You want to just crash at my place tonight? Saves you the Uber." I hesitated for a second. Not because I didn't want to, but because, well, his house always felt a little intimidating. Not because of him. Alex was chill, funny, dependable, never judgmental. It was his dad. Mr. Bennett, tall, broad-shouldered, with that salt and pepper thing going on, and a voice like smooth bourbon. The kind of man who walked into a room and people naturally moved aside. Not because he demanded it, just because his presence filled it. Still, I shrugged like it was no big deal. "Yeah, sure, thanks." The ride to his house was filled with music and bad impressions of our teacher. I laughed more in those 20 minutes than I had all week. When we pulled up, the familiar house stood there with its porch lights glowing, warm against the dusk. I'd been here before. Birthday parties, a few hangouts. But tonight felt quieter. Mr. Bennett opened the door before we even rang the bell. He was in sweatpants and a fitted navy t-shirt, barefoot, holding a glass of water in one hand. "Hey, kid," he said, first to Alex, then looked over at me. His gaze lingered just a moment too long. "And guest of honor. Good to see you again." His smile was polite. But something about the way he looked at me made my neck feel warmer. "Hey, Mr. Bennett," I replied, trying not to sound awkward. We dumped our bags near the stairs and followed the smell of pizza into the kitchen. Dinner was easy. We sat around the kitchen island eating greasy slices while Alex told a story about our chemistry teacher trying to fix a Bunsen burner and nearly setting his sleeve on fire. Mr. Bennett laughed, a deep, relaxed sound that made something flutter in my chest. Every now and then, I glanced his way. I tried not to, but my eyes kept drifting. The way his jaw flexed when he chewed. The way he looked at Alex with quiet pride. He wasn't loud or flashy like some dads, but he had this presence, grounded, comfortable in his skin. After pizza, we played a couple rounds of Mario Kart while Mr. Bennett cleaned up the kitchen. He didn't join in, just watched from the doorway, arms crossed over his chest, amused. "You two need lives," he joked. "Not all of us can be cool dads with whiskey and jazz," Alex shot back. "Exactly," he said, raising his glass in mock salute. "Don't you forget it." Eventually, Alex tossed me a spare toothbrush and showed me to the guest room. "You're here. I'm upstairs if you need anything. Bathroom's across the hall." "Cool. Thanks, man." He gave me a lazy wave and disappeared. I dropped my bag near the dresser and looked around. The room smelled faintly of lavender and old wood. It had one window, slightly cracked open to let in the spring air. A quiet breeze stirred the curtains. I changed into sweats and lay on the bed, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, trying not to think about the way Mr. Bennett had looked at me. Not that it meant anything. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I just wanted to be noticed by someone like him, someone sure of who they were. The house had gone still. No footsteps, no murmurs from upstairs, just the occasional creak of floorboards settling. And then, a soft thump outside my door. I froze. Listened. Nothing. I shrugged it off. Just the house breathing, I told myself. Still, I couldn't shake the tension in my chest. I turned off the lamp, rolled over, and tried to sleep, but somewhere, deep in the quiet, I had the strangest feeling I wasn't the only one awake. I woke up with my throat dry and my mouth tasting like cardboard. For a second, I couldn't remember where I was. The unfamiliar ceiling, the soft hum of a distant fridge. Then it clicked. Alex's house. Guest room. Sleepover. I rolled onto my side and squinted at the clock. 12:42 a.m. Everything was still. I slipped out of bed, the cool hardwood sending a small shiver up my legs. I cracked the door open, careful not to make a sound. The hallway was dim, lit only by the faint nightlight near the stairs. I padded toward the kitchen. The house felt different at night. More spacious, more alive somehow. Every creak of the floorboard felt like a full conversation. I grabbed a glass, filled it at the sink, and took a few slow sips, trying not to think too hard about anything, especially not Mr. Bennett. As I headed back toward the room, I froze. At the corner, there he was, Mr. Bennett, shirtless. Coming down the hallway from the opposite direction, his chest broad and defined, catching the faint glow of the hallway light. His sweatpants hung low on his hips. He looked up and stopped when he saw me. We both paused. Like we weren't supposed to be here. Like we'd walked into the wrong dream. "Oh," he said, voice low, rough with sleep. "Didn't expect anyone." "Up." "Just got thirsty," I said, holding up the half-empty glass like proof. His eyes ran over me. Just a moment, but I noticed. I was in a fitted t-shirt and sweatpants. Nothing scandalous, but suddenly I felt visible. Not like a kid, like something else, like someone he was seeing. "You all right?" he asked, stepping closer. "Heard something earlier. Thought maybe Alex knocked something over." I shook my head. "Nah, just me. Sorry if I made noise." He smiled. Soft, crooked. "You're fine." There was a pause, long enough to be awkward. He rubbed the back of his neck, then looked past me toward the guest room door still cracked open. "You having trouble sleeping?" I shrugged. "Kinda." He glanced toward the room again, then back at me. "Mind if I come in for a sec?" My breath caught, but I moved aside. Sure." He stepped inside like he belonged there. Not arrogantly, just calmly. He didn't turn on the light, just sat at the edge of the bed, elbows resting on his knees. I stayed near the door, unsure of what to do with my hands. He spoke first. "Used to have nights like this all the time, especially after the divorce. Couldn't sleep for more than 2 hours without waking up." I nodded, surprised he was sharing that with me. "That sucks." He let out a quiet laugh. "Yeah. Eventually, I just accepted that some nights weren't meant for sleeping. Some nights are meant for thinking." I leaned against the door frame, watching him from the shadows. He didn't look at me, just stared at the floor like he was sorting through memories. "What do you think about?" I asked, almost whispering. He looked up, right at me. Life, the past, things I should have said and things I shouldn't have. His eyes lingered. There was something in them. Tiredness, yes, but also curiosity, warmth. "You're not like most of Alex's friends," he said after a moment. I wasn't sure how to take that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? He smiled again, but this time it didn't reach his eyes. "It's just different. You see things. You feel them. Not everyone does." I swallowed, unsure what to say. The room was quiet. Too quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat. I stepped forward and sat on the opposite side of the bed, mirroring his posture, elbows on knees, eyes forward. For a moment, we just sat there. Then softly, he said, "You remind me of myself at your age, trying to figure things out. Feeling too much, afraid to ask the questions that matter." I turned toward him. "What kind of questions?" His eyes met mine. There was a beat of silence. A beat too long. He didn't answer. Just stared. As if the answer itself was sitting between us, thick and unsaid. Then, gently, slowly, he placed a hand on mine. Not forcefully. Not in a rush. Just there. Warm. Solid. A connection. I didn't pull away. Neither did he. The touch only lasted a few seconds, but it left an imprint deeper than anything I could explain. He finally stood up, breaking the moment. He cleared, his throat like he needed to reset. "You should get some rest," he said, voice softer now. "Long day tomorrow." "Yeah," I said quietly, still processing the feel of his hand on mine. He walked to the door but paused in the frame. The hallway light cast half his face in shadow. "Good night," he said. But before he turned, his eyes flicked back to me, holding mine for a moment longer than necessary. Then he was gone. I sat there for a long time, staring at the doorway like it had secrets to spill. I don't know how long I sat there after he left. The room felt heavy, like it was still holding his presence, his voice, his touch. The bed creaked softly under my weight as I shifted, trying to process what had just happened. My hand still tingled where his had rested. It wasn't just a gesture. It was something else, something charged, like he was trying to say more but didn't know how, or wasn't sure if he should. I lay back down, eyes wide open in the dark, the ceiling barely visible in the dim light, filtering through the curtains. Then, barely 5 minutes later, a soft knock at the door. 3 gentle taps. I froze. "Yeah?" I said, barely above a whisper. The door creaked open. Just a sliver. His silhouette appeared in the frame, bathed in gold from the hallway light. "I couldn't sleep," he said, voice low and rough again. I sat up. "Me either." He stepped inside and closed the door behind him, this time more carefully. The room dimmed again as the light vanished, leaving only the hush between us. "I didn't mean to cross any lines earlier," he said. Sometimes it's hard to know where comfort ends and something else begins." My chest tightened. "You didn't make me uncomfortable. I just didn't expect it." He sat back on the edge of the bed, closer this time. "What are you expecting?" he asked quietly, not as a challenge, but as a genuine question. I swallowed. "Honestly, I don't know." He nodded like he understood that completely. For a moment, we sat in silence again, both staring ahead, like the shadows on the wall were easier to look at than each other. Then he asked, "What do you want?" The words hit harder than they should have. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "In general," he said. "Out of life, out of yourself, out of people." "No one's ever asked me that before," I admitted. A voice barely audible. "I figured," he said softly. "You've got that look, like you've been listening to everyone else's plans for you and not your own." That landed too close to home. My shoulders sagged a little. "I don't even know what I want. I mean, I have ideas. But most days, I feel like I'm just moving through other people's expectations." He turned toward me fully. "Then let's start simple. Do you feel seen?" That question silenced every noise in my head. Seen, I hesitated. "Not really. Not in a real way. People see the version of me they expect. But not me." He nodded slowly, like he wasn't surprised. "I know that feeling." I glanced over. His profile was soft in the dark, but strong. "Safe. You seem like someone who's always sure of himself," I said. He let out a quiet laugh. "God, no. I just got good at pretending. Age teaches you how to hide the parts that hurt." We looked at each other. Something flickered between us again. That quiet, magnetic pull. "Why are you here?" I asked. "In this room. Right now." He looked at me for a long time before answering. "Because I needed to talk to someone who felt real. And because you weren't asleep either." The air between us shifted again. Heavier. Warmer. I could feel it building, like something inside me was about to snap open. He reached out slowly, fingers brushing mine again. This time, I didn't flinch. He didn't grab. He didn't pull. Just that feather-light contact, like he was asking permission without words. My breath hitched, but I didn't move. We stayed like that, connected by a single point of touch. It wasn't about romance, not yet. It wasn't about lust either. It was intimacy, unspoken understanding, the kind you rarely find with someone, especially someone older, especially someone who shouldn't be in this room with you right now. Then, just as gently, he let go. He stood up slowly, his knees cracking softly. "You should get some sleep," he said again. But this time, the words sounded different. Like a line in a story we both knew wasn't over yet. He reached the door, hand on the knob, then stopped and looked back. His eyes caught the faint light, and something about his expression made my throat tighten. He didn't smile. He didn't wink. He just looked at me, really looked, and I felt it in my spine. Then he opened the door, stepped into the hallway, and disappeared into the dark. I lay back down, but I knew sleep wouldn't come easy, because it wasn't just the questions he asked that kept me awake. It was the ones I suddenly wanted to ask him. The smell of bacon woke me up before the sunlight did. I blinked into the soft morning light filtering through the blinds, disoriented for a second. The guest room looked exactly as it had the night before. But everything felt different. The night replayed in flashes. His hand on mine. That look in his eyes, the way he paused before leaving. I rubbed my face and sat up slowly, heart still beating a little too fast for breakfast. By the time I walked into the kitchen, Alex was already halfway through a plate of eggs and toast. His hair was a mess, his face still puffy from sleep. "Dude, you sleep okay?" he mumbled through a mouthful of food. "Yeah," I lied, sliding into the seat across from him. "Eventually." "Guest bed's kinda lumpy," he added, sipping. "Orange juice." "Sorry about that." "No, it's fine," I said quickly. "Was comfortable enough." I tried not to look around too obviously, but I couldn't help it. My eyes scanned the kitchen for him, and there he was. Mr. Bennett stood by the stove, flipping pancakes with effortless calm. He was dressed now. Well, half-dressed. A gray, Henley shirt hugged his arms, sleeves pushed to the elbows. Still barefoot, though. He looked over his shoulder when he heard me. "Morning." "Morning," I said, trying to sound normal. Casual. His expression was unreadable. A slight nod. No smile. Just calm control. But I saw it. The flicker. That brief second when his eyes lingered on me. That tiny, silent acknowledgement of everything that had passed between us in the dark. And then it was gone. He turned back, to the pan like nothing had happened, like we weren't keeping something fragile between us. I picked at the eggs on my plate, barely tasting them. Alex talked about a new video game, something about an upcoming tournament, and I nodded along, offering the occasional cool or yeah, but my brain was somewhere else entirely. Across the table, Mr. Bennett sat down with his coffee and the paper, flipping it open like he hadn't been in my room less than 8 hours ago, talking about life, touch, and feeling unseen. Alex, blissfully unaware, glanced between us. "Hey, Dad, you think I could borrow the car next weekend if I take the early shift?" Mr. Bennett didn't look up. "We'll talk about it." Alex turned to me. "You free next Saturday? We might do a late-night movie thing. You should come." Over again. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. There it was. The question hanging between worlds. Between what had been and what might be again. I looked at Alex. "Yeah, that sounds good." But the truth was, I wasn't thinking about pizza or video games or movies. I was thinking about another night. About quiet words and gentle hands, and the way one look can upend everything you think you know about yourself. Mr. Bennett turned a page in his paper but didn't look at me. Still, I felt him watching. Felt the weight of his awareness, even when his eyes stayed hidden. There was no smirk, no secret smile, just the quiet knowledge that something had shifted. I finished my plate slowly, aware of every breath, every glance, every unspoken word passing through the room. Eventually, Alex stood and stretched. "I'm gonna shower. You heading out soon?" "Yeah," I said, glancing at the clock. "Probably should." As he walked off, Mr. Bennett looked up at me. Just once. Just enough. We didn't speak. But something passed between us again. Like the ghost of a touch. Like we were holding the same thread, quietly tugging from opposite ends. I helped clear the plates, mumbling a soft thanks under my breath as I brushed past him. He said nothing, but he didn't need to. Because in that silence, I heard everything. It was raining when I got to Alex's house the second time. Not a dramatic downpour. Just that soft, steady kind that makes the whole world feel hushed. The kind that soaks into your skin if you stand still too long. Alex greeted me at the door like always, hoodie already damp, a grin on his face. "We're hitting the movies late with the guys. Wanna come?" I hesitated, glanced inside. "Actually, I think I'll just chill here tonight. Long week." He shrugged. "No big deal." "Cool. You know where everything is. Dad's around somewhere. Probably buried in his book or something." I nodded and stepped inside. He grabbed his keys, threw on his jacket, and was gone within minutes. And just like that, I was alone. Again. Same guest room. Same soft lavender scent in the sheets. Same window slightly cracked open to let in the night air. But it didn't feel the same. Because I wasn't the same. I lay on the bed with my arms behind my head, staring up at the ceiling as the rain whispered outside. The house creaked, settled, sighed like it remembered me, like it was waiting for something too. I heard the soft padding of feet outside my door around 10 p.m. I sat up instinctively, heart racing. A pause. Then, knock, knock, knock. 3 gentle taps. I didn't speak. I just watched the door slowly creak open. There he was, Mr. Bennett, this time in a long-sleeve shirt, the top 2 buttons undone, sweatpants again, barefoot. His expression unreadable, but, his eyes already holding too much. He stepped in quietly, closing the door behind him. No explanation. No hesitation. I figured you wouldn't go, he said softly. I nodded. I needed the quiet. He walked closer, slowly, like each step was deliberate. He didn't sit on the bed this time. He knelt beside it, at eye level with me. His presence filled the room without saying anything else. It made the air feel heavier, made my breathing shallow. I didn't come in here to make you uncomfortable, he said, voice low but sure. And I'm not here to confuse you. He paused. I'm here because I need to be honest. And because it didn't feel right not to be. I swallowed. My hands were folded in my lap, gripping each other like they were trying to hold me together. He looked at me, really looked. The other night, he said, wasn't just a moment. Not for me. My heart pounded. He continued, voice barely above a whisper. I felt something. I didn't want to admit it, not to myself, not to anyone, but it's there. Silence, just the rain outside, and my pulse in my ears. You're not a boy anymore, he said slowly. And I'm tired of pretending I don't see that. His words landed like a stone dropped in still water, rippling out. I didn't move, didn't breathe. And then, carefully, he reached up and took my hand. This time, he didn't let go. His palm was warm. His grip was gentle. There was no rush in it. No assumption. Just connection. I looked down at our hands, the difference in size, in age, in life experience. And yet, it didn't feel wrong. It felt quiet, like something that had been building for a long time but finally had the courage to surface. I don't expect anything from you, he said gently. I don't even know what this is. But I know I haven't looked at anyone like that in years, and I don't want to lie to myself anymore. I looked at him. His eyes held everything he wasn't saying, the confusion, the restraint, the longing, the fear, all of it, raw and real, and so painfully human. I didn't imagine it, I whispered. No, he replied. You didn't. We sat there like that, him kneeling, me on the edge of the bed, hands locked together in the quiet hum of rain and breath. Nothing else happened. And somehow, it was everything. Eventually he let go, just as gently as he'd taken hold. He stood, not with a sense of finality, but with care, with reverence. You should rest, he said softly. I nodded, but as he turned to leave, he hesitated. Then, looked back one last time, that same glance, that same unspoken truth hanging in the air between us, and then he was gone. I lay back on the bed, staring up at the ceiling again. Only now, I was different. Everything felt different, because for the first time in a long time I felt seen. Not for who I was supposed to be, but for who I actually was. The drive home felt longer than usual. Alex played music, talked about the movie I didn't go to, the friends I didn't meet, the inside jokes I wasn't part of. I nodded, smiled where it made sense. But most of my mind was somewhere else. Somewhere still back in that room. Back with him. Mr. Bennett hadn't said goodbye. Not directly, anyway. When I came downstairs that morning, he was already gone. Mug in the sink, the faint smell of his cologne still hanging in the hallway. No notes, no glances, no last words. And yet, he didn't need to say anything. The silence between us had already spoken more than words ever could. When Alex dropped me off outside my place, he honked once and waved. "Next weekend?" he called out. I nodded. "Yeah, let me know." I didn't know if I meant it. I didn't know what I was saying yes to. But I said it anyway. My room was exactly how I left it. Messy bed, half-folded laundry, textbooks still splayed open on my desk like the world hadn't changed. But I had. I lay back on my bed and stared at the ceiling, just like I had in his guest room. Only now, it was different. There was no rain, no soft footsteps, no gentle knock, just silence and memory. I replayed everything. The way he looked at me that first night, the way his voice dropped when he said I wasn't a boy anymore, the way his hand held mine, not to pull me anywhere, not to take anything, but just to feel something real. I kept asking myself what it meant, what he meant, what we meant. Maybe it was a moment, maybe it was nothing, or maybe it was enough. The truth is, I don't know what happens next. I don't know if he'll ever say anything more. I don't know if I'll ever ask. But I know this. That weekend, I was seen. Not in the way that turns heads or earns applause. Not in the way friends joke or teachers praise. I was seen in the quiet, in the small hours of the night. In the space where nothing is expected, and everything is felt. And that did something to me. He didn't kiss me. He didn't promise me anything. He didn't even stay. But he gave me something no one else ever had. He gave me that moment. And sometimes, that's all you need to keep going. Not the fairy tale, not the fireworks. Just someone who made you feel like you weren't invisible. I turned off my phone, pulled the covers over my chest, closed my eyes and let it wash over me. The silence, the memory, the ache, the hope, and I whispered it into the quiet. A truth only I needed to hear. Sometimes the smallest touch can undo you completely. And sometimes that's exactly what you didn't know you needed.